Here we are, back again, round 3, Ragnarok. This train doesn't stop going. I'm Chris Baarstad here with Valhallan Esports League. I brought some of my best buds here to help out run this show, talk to you guys a bit about esports, get this tournament kicked off the right way. We are super excited to get moving on this today. It's been a wild lead up. We've got more interest and more engagement than ever before. It's going to be a super stellar event. We are very excited this round. It only gets better every time we go. So I thought we would get a few folks here I know could share some wisdoms with you guys about what the industry looks like, how they got to where they are, give you a little bit of insight into that industry experience for you. So I brought a few of my friends. I'm going to throw it over to them. Guys, if you wouldn't mind, just tell us a little bit about who you are, what it is you do, and of course, most importantly, as we are all gamers here, what your favorite game is. So Chris, Bearlight, kick it off for us.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Chris. Yeah, my name is also Chris Lee, most notably Bearlight in the industry and professional caster in the esports space. I've been doing it for about 8 years now. On top of that, I also work with a great company called Stay Plugged In with the man to your left, my right, Kyle, and right now work in operations. I do a lot of marketing as well, content creation, and things like that. Favorite game, got to be Rocket League, 100%.
Always with the Rocket League with Bearlight. I can't get into it, man. I've tried. I cannot win a ranked game to save my life, so I got to stick to the shooters for now. Kyle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, glad to be on. I'm Kyle. I was one of the co-founders of Stay Plugged In about 4 years ago now, where our entire goal that we set out to accomplish was to develop that pipeline from high school to collegiate for that esports player or gamer to find scholarship opportunities. And with that, I kind of touch all the different verticals, kind of lead all of the different departments of Stay Plugged In, but I particularly love the tech side. So implementing different and more efficient ways for that user experience to be super good, both on the collegiate recruiter side and on the student side.
Awesome, love it. Sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
I forgot my favorite game. My favorite game of all time probably has to be Rainbow Six Siege.
Okay. I've seen you play some Valorant, and you are surprisingly not terrible at it, so I'll give you a little credit. I will say, though, you know I love you, Bear. We're boys. You're terrible at Valorant.
It's so true. I want to say that you're wrong, but I have to agree with you wholeheartedly. Let's be honest.
Your Valorant skills are very comparable to my Rocket League skills, so we'll just leave it at that. And then new to the group here, and Kyle and Chris and I have worked together in a lot of ways in the past, and they've been a big part of where the league began, where the league is now, supporting us in a lot of different ways, especially through that showcase event that we do once a season with our with Stay Plugged In. That's a exclusive event for VHEL participating teams only. We get to put an awesome event on over there. I do nothing except get folks in. They do all the hard lift and the hard work. But that's been a big part of the identity of our organization, is making sure that we're providing opportunities for teams and kids to seek the next step in their esports career if that's really what they're interested in chasing. But new to the panel and new to the family here, been around the Valhallan crew now for a few months. Really excited to have him here. He's done some really awesome stuff really quickly and been a incredibly impressive addition to the Valhallan family is Andrew Aultman. Andrew, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. Just got some background noise. We got kids coming in getting ready for the tournament today, so I'll apologize for that ahead of time. But it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
But my name's Andrew. I am the owner and arena director at Valhallan Camp Hill in Pennsylvania. Been a gamer my whole life. I absolutely love this industry. It's been kind of a labor of love building this arena and getting it up and going for these kids, which they have absolutely just fallen in love with. We have been nonstop since we opened up, and it's just been a blast to be able to serve our community.
Love to hear it. Favorite game, Andrew? All time. Favorite game of all time?
That's too easy, man. It's got to be the Assassin's Creed.
Ooh, the Assassin's Creed games.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, and no matter what game genre we all play, everybody plays a little bit of Assassin's Creed. It's kind of a de facto industry game, I think. So, all right. Well, I have a few great questions that I think could really prompt some conversation that could be super insightful for parents and students and kids out there watching this today. But first, I wanted to hear a little bit about kind of your journey each. How did you get to where you're at? And really, what I mean is, like, where did you start? How did you decide that the esports industry was where you really wanted to focus your efforts in your career and your future? And then, kind of a quick, too long, didn't read version of how you got to where you're at today. Kyle, what about you?
Sweet, I'll kick it off. Yeah, so my journey into esports, lifelong gamer, very avid competitor, especially within Rainbow Six, kind of into college. And one of my friends, I actually met my current boss, the guy that started Stay Plugged In. His name is Rick Suarez. I met him through one of my best friends growing up, where basically the original group of Stay Plugged In was me, myself, him, his dad, Rick, and then Rick's son, Nick. And kind of just joined that group and kind of hit the ground running right after I graduated college. Just doing something I've always been super passionate of, really in the industry. I'm really passionate in gaming and esports more broadly, but ultimately I love to help kids. I love to kind of help them get to their next path, because one of the things I always struggled with as an individual in high school and especially in college was finding my path of like, hey, what do I really want to do in this world? Where do I want to end up? I love the game. I've always loved traditional sports as well. Played football and baseball growing up, but never found that one thing that kind of sparked my interest, and switched majors a bunch, kind of gone back and forth, up and down through college, and then kind of landed on my feet when we were able to start Stay Plugged In together. And from there, kind of just hit the ground running. Learned a lot on the business side, learned a lot of kind of how to run things efficiently, and then develop products that actually deliver something valuable to our players and the colleges on both sides, to where I am today. Kind of the leader of all things Stay Plugged In, especially in the day-to-day, but definitely, like I said before, super focused on really bringing good technical implementations, whether it's web apps or kind of native applications, to our users, to really make it super efficient to find their best fit college, or in the reverse, for colleges to fit those students that fit what they're building at each of their own unique programs best.
Give us a sweet stat that you have for Stay Plugged In, like how many kids, how much money, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so the best stat I can give you is, as of today, we just hit $40 million in scholarships that we've been able to facilitate through that recruiting platform that we put together over the last 3 recruiting classes. So that's the recruiting class of 21, 22, and 23, and a little bit of 24. But we're right kind of starting the thick of 2024 for that recruiting period.
So wild to me to hear that. I mean, just, and Kyle, I know you're a bit younger than me, but I just can't imagine what kind of opportunity would have existed if that was around 20 years ago. So it's super cool that, all of us here in a way are trying to work to create the peripheral space around that opportunity. It's super awesome that that gets to exist for kids to chase that dream. Because like you, traditional sports player too. I played sports all through high school, water polo, swim, super competitive, started playing a little early college, but I would have given all that up in a moment if I could have played some competitive CS back then for money, for sure.
Exactly.
All right, Bear, what about you? How'd you get here?
It's crazy to me how much you learn about somebody who works right next to you Monday through Friday. We actually have very similar stories, if you can imagine. And it's kind of funny for those who know me. You would say that there's no way, but I also was in traditional sports. So I did that for a little bit. So I was always ultra competitive, played video games since the 64, just to kind of age myself. Actually, Super Nintendo, my brother got me on. So a long time ago, when I was little, definitely an avid video game player. Over time, I actually kind of transitioned into a musician for a little bit. I toured the United States with a terrible pop punk band, but I learned some skills about performing, right? Being on stage and being able to present yourself and present a story. And so that helped me on eventually on as a caster. So started in esports through streaming myself. I played Rocket League when it came out in 2015. And so I started streaming around, it was about 8 years ago. Started hosting Rocket League tournaments on my channel because obviously that's my favorite game. And then actually through my streams and through my own personal tournaments, through my own ventures in streaming, I had a small time gig come up, and it was this tiny organization. It was volunteer work. But at the time I was like, hey, I truly made it. Let's go. Eventually I realized there's a lot more out there. But it did get my start. It really did kickstart things. And so I started researching esports, talked to their staff. They said, yeah, there's this huge world of esports within Rocket League. You should try casting. So I actually found an organization called Charlotte Phoenix because I was looking for local organizations I could be part of. And they had a pro team there. Started casting for them a little bit. But then I got to meet the guys that Stay Plugged In because they worked pretty closely with the Charlotte Phoenix for a bit. And that was life changing. I looked at Stay Plugged In. I saw their mission. You heard about the scholarship money that's out there and what Stay Plugged In is doing to facilitate those. And it was just an awesome opportunity. They had tournaments that I could cast. So obviously I get to keep fresh on a regular basis and cast. But also I created content on it was a video series about colleges called The Charge. So it's still volunteer work because I literally just met them. They don't know anything about me. But I started like writing and creating and filming the show called The Charge. Came in just about every single day. And then managing director that Kyle mentioned, Rick Suarez, must have noticed that I was coming in on a regular basis and putting my heart into it. And one day he just came up to me and says, "Hey, you want a job with us?" And it's been crazy ever since. I cast regularly with Stay Plugged In. Team streams, I've worked with, obviously, the Charlotte Phoenix casting on the RLCS level, but I've also worked with Team Ganders of APAC. I've worked with Luminosity Gaming, might be a name that y'all recognize from North America, and a few others, actually, out there that maybe are less notable. But also in the collegiate scene, too. I've casted for NACE for a little bit, then transitioned over to NECC, and I still cast there today. And then through Stay Plugged In and this company, there's just so much opportunity. I've casted at Bank of America Stadium for a FIFA tournament with Charlotte FC. The 600 Fest at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We did a Rocket League tournament there. So there's just so much opportunity in the esports space if you just know where to look and have that ambition and that passion. And here we are today, getting casting gigs all over the place. It's been quite an incredible experience.
I love it. I love it. I mean, I feel like you and Kyle, you captivated the scene so young when you were really early in your career. I was just a teacher, working in a classroom that, nerded out and played video games at home at night when he had time, when the kids went to bed. And it was nothing more than, a couple kids at the school saying, we want to do this thing called esports. And that was kind of the rocket ship that took me on it. I think it's wild how far, and all of us here know, it's wild how far you can chase this passion these days and how many real pathway opportunities there are that are different than just being a pro. One of the things that, someone that I work closely with here at Valhallan, Luke Zelon, one of the things we talk about a lot is that there's always this dream that you're going to make it pro, right? And that's awesome. And I hope that works out. But the reality is, in a lot of circumstances, that the pro scene is a hard scene to touch, especially today. And we'll talk about that in a little bit in this kind of esports winter we're in. But it's a hard scene to touch in the same way that, you might be a great high school quarterback, but there are 25,000 high schools in the country, and probably 5,000 of them have great high school quarterbacks. And only half of them will go to college and play in college, and a small sliver of them will go on and play in the pros. But the industry that exists around sports has trickled its way into the esports industry, right? And Bear, you're an example of that, right? There's casting opportunities, there's journalism opportunities, there's folks out there who are writing full-time for the Esports Observer, for Dignitas. I mean, there's all kinds of industry opportunities now that exist that did not exist just 10 years ago. And so I think it's important that when people like us, get to reflect on that experience and look back at it now that we're kind of later on in our careers, that we can share to the kids that, there's this passion you can chase here. There's so many directions you can go. Content, I mean, it's kind of endless, right?
It honestly is. There's so much opportunity out there. I mean, you just mentioned writing articles. That's another thing I do for Stay Plugged In. You wear a lot of hats. But Chris, I absolutely agree. There is so much opportunity out there, and definitely recommend. The first step is be persistent if you're looking for these opportunities too, and you'll find something that really resonates with you. It might take a little bit of time, but always encourage kids out there to look into the industry. There's plenty of opportunities out there.
I love it. I love it. Andrew, it looks like you're back. I see you're muted right now, but if you, I'm gonna throw it to you. Tell me about your kind of journey. I know you like me, more like my story, I think, kind of come from just being a guy who had a job but played games at night to now that game has kind of become your job.
Yeah, Chris, you're exactly right. I like I said, I grew up, on games all the way back to the Atari 2600 and fell in love with Pitfall and Miss Pac-Man, and I've just loved this entire world. I joined the Air Force straight out of high school, served 22 years, and that was my release. Was after a hard day or doing whatever we were doing, we'd come home and all my friends in the dorms and I would just sit down and play, and it was just a way for us to get rid of that stress at the end of the day, and I absolutely loved it. As I got older and my kids started to show up as well, they became gamers. My son was my original gamer, and he just absolutely loved this world. And he's sorry guys, we got a lot of
No,
people
that's a good thing.
coming in
That's a
right
good
now.
thing.
It is, yeah. So I'll keep this short because I don't want to drag it on, and I got a lot of kids here waiting to get down and get into a tournament. But bottom line is I got into this world because I wanted to give back to the kids and give kids opportunities that I didn't have for my kids. And that's exactly what Valhallan has done for me and the kids in our community. It's given them pathways, whether that be to college or to the pros. Valhallan is the answer for parents when a kid comes up and says, I want to be a professional gamer, that parents don't know what to do for that. And now they have an answer. And that's what this has been. And that's what I absolutely love about it.
100%, 100%. I mean, that's why we're all here. Is we just want to provide opportunity for kids and facilitate that as best as we possibly can for kids. Really doing something that we wish existed for us but didn't. I'll try not to kick it to you too much, Andrew. I'm sure you've got a lot going on over there. I saw the list of registrations you submitted, so you've got plenty of tasks ahead of you today. I do want to transition to talk a little bit about, because I'm sure there are a lot of players here that are watching this and participating today, and even parents who have heard about the esports winter. Right, winter is coming. They all told us for 2 years in esports, and we all kind of said, "Don't worry, the industry's growing. It's just growing. It's growing." But off air before we kicked off, we were just talking a little bit about the bubble finally burst. We finally saw the death of the Overwatch League, which obviously now we've kind of seen an attempt to resurge that Overwatch League. We've seen a lot of the pro teams dropping a lot of their pro teams, also not able to fund those guaranteed contracts that were promised to players. Kind of, with all of us here who have a little bit probably more specialized knowledge in that than maybe a lot of other parents out there, and certainly a lot of the players too. Kind of, what is the esports winter? And really the follow-up question is, do we as a youth organization, do we as kids and students and young players, do we need to have a fear about that industry dying? Kyle?
The short answer is no. Absolutely not. The esports winner in my purview is specifically if you are an owner or operator of a professional esports team. And I think everything else is perfectly fine. There is, definitely a number of layoffs going through the tech industry specifically, but I don't think that's a gaming thing. That's a tech thing. So you see, some game developers being laid off, some people on the kind of professional league management side being laid off right now. That's just the shrinking of our economy right now, and that's normal. It sucks. Don't get me wrong. Like it's definitely never fun to go through those kinds of rounds of layoffs, but that's just life. I mean, that happens across every single industry as we see these macroeconomic type of things go up and down. And we can get into the nitty gritty about not going to on that side. I think from an esports as a kind of wide view, we're still in as best of a position we've ever been in, and it's continuously growing. The number of inbound phone calls that I get personally from scholastic individuals or organizations, especially from the public sector, of all of these public schools seeing how engaging gaming is and really latching on to like, hey, this develops skills in these youth individuals that is a lifelong skill: problem solving, critical thinking, teamwork, how to treat others with respect, and also how to manage conflicts, right? A lot of the things that you learn in traditional sports that we know in today's world is a little less popular than it used to be. And frankly, we all know you can only play traditional sports for so long unless you have kind of a God-given talent of being 6'6" and being able to have the right size to go play in the NFL or NBA. Versus esports and gaming is a lifelong thing that many people participate in, and the stats show that. I mean, I think it's 90+% of high school age players or individuals play games, whether it's socially or competitively or somewhere in between or a mixture of both. And the amount of support that is being brought on in today's current age or year is absolutely incredible. So that's why I say from a narrow perspective, yeah, if you're an owner and operator of an esports team right now, it's definitely an esports winter. There's a number of reasons for that. But when we look towards the future, if you want to be in this industry and work and have a successful career, it's an incredible spot today, and it's only going to continue to go that way, especially as there's this foundation is continuing to be built and these sustainable companies that are providing value and providing products like Valhallan, like what we do at Stay Plugged In, and so many others. So where, again, like you said earlier, Chris, that everyone dreams of being a pro, but like, let's just look at the numbers. In Valorant right now, there's what, 8 franchise NA spots. So that means there's 40 professional players that you could be. And that's 40 out of, probably a million-ish North American players that would want that spot. Those numbers aren't the best. That's just reality. Same thing in football, same thing in baseball. But to be a caster, to work in any number of professions, I always say if you think of the job title exists in a different industry, it exists in esports. To give everyone a very transparent example is what we do at Stay Plugged In. We have a marketing department, a sales department, a tech department where we have software engineers, and then also, I'm forgetting one, marketing, operations. And in operations, we run all our events, kind of manage the logistics behind everything. And that's a team of anywhere from 3 on the small side to 7 on the big side for each of those departments with very normal jobs: director of operations, event specialist, event operations, logistics, software engineers, your kind of traditional social media managers, sales positions that are commission based, everything in between, right? So like that foundation working in gaming is growing so quickly right now, and it's only going to continue to grow.
100%. Bear, do you have anything you want to add to that? Kind of about your experience, because, Kyle and I work, and you too, to some degree, we work really in that youth space, but you're the one who's kind of interfacing a bit more with the pro scene than anyone else here.
Yeah, and unfortunately for me, Chris, I have seen it happen to a lot of my friends. For example, RLCS just had big cutbacks as far as what casters they were going to bring on. Part of that reason, there's a reason for everything in my eyes as far as a business standpoint goes. I think, the RLCS in general, they just had more talent than any other game out there, number one. And so they needed to make those cuts, and it stinks. But if you linger on the fact that maybe it is a tough time, even for talent and casters, you recognize that the ones that keep their heads up, the ones that you actually got laid off from that casting position, they started to talk to teams, and teams brought them on for their team streams, and now they're thriving where what they're doing on those channels are so creative and so cool, and they have a position. Sure, the stability is a little bit tough on the professional side, I'm not gonna lie, but currently there are so many ways that you can establish yourself in different avenues. Like Kyle mentioned with Stay Plugged In, there are those avenues of operations, marketing. So I'm with marketing and content that I do on a regular basis, and organizations out there that are at the grassroots level, I think is the most important things. Organizations like Stay Plugged In, you can find that stability. I still get to cast on a regular basis. I still get to do what I love, but on a 9-to-5 basis, sometimes it's about operations. Sometimes it's about, getting desks and chairs across the country or PCs across the country in order to run a live event. And you know what? That work is less exciting to me. But from a professional standpoint, I think it's very important that if we build up the grassroots level, right? If we, hit high schools, even middle schools, once we establish that culture that Kyle was talking about just a little bit ago, if we can really strengthen that across the country and across the world, that's when we'll see esports, bounce back. And even though we might be in an esports winter, when we talk about like the housing industry, the best time to buy a house is when it's maybe down a little bit because it's going to bounce back. And currently that's my view of esports. It's not a one-to-one perfect representation of what's going on, but it does say that, like, I would say look for opportunities now. They're available, they're open to you, and I definitely recommend you look for those.
Yeah, so the opportunities still exist, and I think specifically in the scholastic side of things, before anybody goes pro in any sport, you always go the collegiate route first, and there is a boatload of opportunity for competitive players. But again, not just competitive players, right? A lot of these college programs are looking for, kids who can come in and help do directing and managing of the program, who can operate as a coach to the team, who can help with the casting and the production side. The college programs themselves, particularly the schools with really robust programs like, Maryville and Boise State, right? These kinds of schools, they're looking for entire industry package kids, right? You may be you may be, and you guys could probably speak more closely to this, but you may be a gold Valorant player and you want to play in college, and you may be worried, I'm not going to be good enough to play. Do you have a good GPA? Are you a hard worker in school? Do you have a nice resume for your high school experience and your high school career? And do you have other peripheral skills for the industry that program may need at their actual program? Have you guys seen a lot of kind of college pathway opportunity for kids like that?
Yeah, so I'll pick that up real fast. Our rule of thumb is everyone can be recruited if you have that portfolio. The number of requests we get, not even gaming related, regardless of what rank you are in the skill, whether you're a caster or a producer, or maybe you want to do something in social media, or you just want to be if you're just want to be involved on the esports competitive kind of formation side of it. Just let me back up a second before I trip on my words. I always compare it to a football team, right? And I don't want to blur the line too much, but we all know a football team takes an army to operate, right? The number of coach, I mean, they have 55 players on a roster. They have about 20 coaches, and then they have a team of admins, of health science professionals, trainers, etc., to operate that team at a high level, the collegiate side, right? Esports is actively growing to that standpoint where you're seeing those players recruited to maybe go into health science as their major, and then also be a trainer, right? To make sure that people stay healthy while they can continue to compete. So I say all of that. We get a ton of inbound requests from our about 450 or so colleges where they're actively recruiting beyond just that super competitive player. Of course, they still want championship teams, so those competitive players, they still recruit. But if you're a gold average player and you're excited about the esports opportunity and you have one or two other related skills that is valuable to that college, there's a scholarship opportunity out there for you today. So I always want to make it adamantly clear, you do not have to be a Radiant in Valorant, or you don't have to be an SSL in Rocket League to get recruited on a scholarship. There are so many scholarship opportunities that brings you into college, makes it a lot cheaper because we know how expensive college is. And then from there, they're able to pursue a professional degree, get more industry expertise and knowledge, then ultimately take that and get a job in esports, just like we were talking before, where it might not be a professional player. Again, the numbers are just against the average person, but you can still get a very well-paying job in an industry you love. And ultimately, what we all want to do is wake up and be excited about what we're doing that day, right? I mean, that's the ultimate win for every parent out there. Is you want your kid or your child to ultimately go into that job where they wake up and they're like, yes, I'm so excited. I'm going to do XYZ today. I love my job. I can come home, relax afterwards, be part of a great community that entire time. That's the ultimate win here. And that opportunity is very readily available.
And then from the professional level, Chris, I'll kind of add to that because you mentioned, and you called me out about my terrible Valorant skills. All right. Hey, listen, I was able to cast Valorant for the Red Bull Campus Clutch at the collegiate level. I was able to get a job with a couple of colleges to cast their Valorant teams, another high school organization casting their Valorant matches. I understand it from a high endpoint, but put me in the lobby and I'm going to lose. But I found that opportunity and I was able to run with it. Even with Rocket League, I got up to like Champ 3. A respectable level, some would say, but not good enough for college to some degree. But that being said, that doesn't mean I'm not good enough to understand it, to find other opportunities. And so that I just wanted to provide that kind of example as well.
No, totally. I think it's really, I just think it's really important that, right, that things like this, these kinds of talks, that what we do is we try to provide that set of information to kids so that they are aware of the opportunities that exist, so that they continue to pursue those things. So I think that's the real value here in people like us who have kind of gone through what existed when we were that age and are trying to help establish the new framework here, so that that program, that opportunity, that pathway, all of those things can become more evident and more clear to the next generation. So I love it. So as we kind of wind down here, I just want to ask you guys all for a one-liner here. If you walk away with nothing else from this panel except this piece of information as a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, what is the one piece of advice you send them away with, whether it's for that kid or that kid's parent? Andrew?
That's an easy one, Chris. It's okay to play video games, and there is a future for you.
Love it. I love it. Kyle?
Keep pursuing what you love, as ultimately, if you pursue what you love every day, it's going to take you to a really special spot when you're a little older.
Love it. Chris?
Be ambition, follow your passion, and continue to support whenever you see others that are trying to make it in the scene too. We all grow together.
Man, I love it. That's exactly what we want to hear. All right, before we step away here, we have about a minute left. And then what we'll do is we'll cut out for a 3 to 5 minute break, give everybody a little breathing room here, a little opportunity to breathe and get a sip of water. We'll probably jump right into either a active Fortnite lobby for round 1 Fortnite today, or it will have just been kicking off. So it'll be early on right now. We're having some caster technical difficulties we're trying to resolve on that side at the moment. But just a heads up, go ahead and tell us a little bit about where we can find more about each of you. Andrew, if you don't mind telling us, where can we learn more about Camp Hill?
Yeah, Facebook.com. Obviously, the VH Camp Hill is where we're at. Facebook, Instagram. We got them all. Check us out.
Love it. Kyle, stay plugged in. Where do we learn more about that?
StayPluggedIn.com. It's really easy. StayPluggedIn.com. Scroll to the bottom. All of our socials are linked in the footer. And then I'd say follow us on Twitter and Instagram for the most updates.
All right. And Bearlight, where do we find you?
Well, staypluggedin.com as well, but also if you want to follow my casting career as well, or if you're looking to hire me as well, you can go to Bearlight Casts. That's Bearlight CASTS on all social media platforms.
Perfect, and that's actually a great social media feed. I follow it. There's some good musical content on there too, Bear. You're a multi-talented gentleman.
Well, thank you, Matt. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
A lot.
And then, of course, you can find us at all of our socials are at VHELGG. You're here at VHELGG on Twitch already. You can follow our Instagram. You can follow our Twitter there as well. You also may want to check out VHEL.GG, which is our homepage for the league. You can find tons of information there about the league offering we have. Our preseason for spring is kicking off on Monday. There's still time to register between now and the next week and a half to get in for our complete 7-week, 3-week playoff season in the spring. We'd love to see you guys in there. And of course, if you have any questions, you can message me on Discord. 1 minute silence, spelled just like it sounds. And that's going to be it for us, guys. I cannot thank you enough. Bearlight, you've been a big part of this stream now since really the beginning of it. You're going to hear a lot more Bearlight throughout the next 2 days, who has been so awesome about giving his time and dedicating his time to making sure that we're able to put together a really awesome production because that's what he wants for kids in the future as well. Appreciate all the hard work that Kyle does for us. Kyle also helps a lot on the website with us, which is absolutely amazing. Andrew continuing to build a force to be reckoned with in the Camp Hill location out there. I'm certain that won't be the last location that we'll find Andrew at. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I can't wait to do this again. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Pleasure.